Morning everybody. Lovely to see you. A lovely cosy morning on a Friday. So I'm Matt Griffiths. I'm CEO of Youth Music. Chatting to Pete, it was just to kind of set a bit of a kind of national context for the day, really. I think that's my kind of role a little bit. So Youth Music, our kind of overall mission is about equalising young people's access to making, learning and earning in music. And how we do that is that we invest. So we invest in a grassroots infrastructure across the UK of currently about 500 community-rooted organisations working with about 80,000 young people every year. And that's everything from early childhood right the way through to 18 to 25. And I suppose the thing I'd really like to focus on, which is something I do talk about a lot, is like, ultimately, why do we do what we do? And we're doing it, what we do, for the benefit of young people and their lives in music. So that's, I think, fundamentally why we do what we do. Young people's lives in music in this country are increasingly exciting and increasingly diverse. And what we're seeing at Youth Music is a whole range of young people kind of doing it for themselves. They're finding ways to develop their music making, their learning, and their earning. So there's this whole thing going on, which is really exciting, about DIY creativity. And young people are taking a lead on that from quite an early age, and also from an age where they're thinking about developing a career, a side hustle, a portfolio career, a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of everything. And what we hear and see from all the evidence that we gather at Youth Music is really exciting. So I think my first thing is let's hone in on that. That's ultimately who it's for. And their lives in music in the UK are increasingly diverse and are very, very representative of the diversity of the UK, which I think is massively important. And then the earn bit for us, we're working a lot with 18 to 25s as to how they make their first steps into a career and a job in music. Underlying all this and why Youth Music exists, we exist to really drive change as a change maker and to really be working with those young people who, through no fault of their own, are facing barriers in their lives. That's the whole history and foundation of Youth Music. And that's why it's really important that we keep that. So in a way, there's a positive there. Who we're working with and who it's for, young people, are doing some really exciting and amazing things. And it's really very, very cool. However, there's an infrastructure in the UK that is under pressure. Institutions, organisations, funders, government behaviour currently is putting this kind of work right at the bottom of the list. And that is causing strain. And that's causing strain on organisations, it's causing strain on the workforce, and it's definitely causing strain on the sustainability of this type of work. So how do we respond to that? We've got a choice here. We can either go, this is all too difficult, and the DFE need to do this, DCMS need to do that, the government need to do this. Yes, they do. They need to do loads more. But it's in our gift to really reimagine what all this work can look like. And that's a sort of central message from Youth Music, reimagining music, music education, which puts at its heart young people's existing lives in music. The interesting thing is, and we've done lots of research about this, is music is young people's favourite thing. It's their top favourite thing, perhaps quite close to digital gaming, but it's their top favourite thing. Both listening, learning, making, and earning. But institutions, organisations, the work that sometimes can be put on is a complete turn-off. A complete turn-off to young people. Hence you hear the argument about, well, I don't do that, but I love music and I'm doing this. What we're trying to intersect is bringing those two worlds together. So really reimagining what the curriculum can look like in school, which at its heart places young people's love of music at its central. Now, just one thing, this is not really about genre. It's not really saying, so it therefore has to be this genre. because that can homogenise, and we hear the opening speech about that. Don't make assumptions. What we know is the diversity of the music being created and learned is huge and very, very exciting, and probably hasn't got any name yet. And I think that's amazing. But therefore, for us, rather than treat it about which genre should we focus on to engage young people, I would say we just need to be inclusive people and inclusive organisations. That's inclusive in the work that we do, it's inclusive in how we govern, it's inclusive in how we fundraise, how we recruit, how we pay people properly at the real living wage, how we bring through a pipeline of young people with properly paid internships so they can progress with their own lived experiences in music, music education, the music industry. So I think I have to be honest, one of the things I found slightly baffling about some of the programme today assumes that there's a genre that we might be more focused on because it reaches a certain type of person. I think we need to think wider than that. Yes, the fact is there's a diversity of music being created, which is hugely exciting, but rather than homogenise it and think that's for this type of person or that type of person, let young people decide. So my kind of final point is young people's voice in this, in everything we do, needs to be central. Their opinions, their co-curation of the work, because as I said at the start, that's ultimately why we're here. If we don't do that, we risk losing an opportunity. We risk losing the opportunity to reimagine, because we plough on thinking we know this is what people want, and we do what we do, and this is how we've always done it. Or we can seize the opportunity, relinquish a little bit of control as leaders. Relinquish a bit of control and say, young people who help us assess, they help youth music make decisions on funding applications, they work with us as young people in our events, and what we really excited to do is relinquish a little bit of control. So the curation of what you do is increasingly for and with young people. What's the end game there? I think we can achieve what we've always wanted to achieve. But it shouldn't be an inclusion project over here and everything else stays the same. It should be, that circle that you can sometimes see. Inclusive practice is embedded across everything we do. That'll be more exciting for young people. It'll probably be more exciting for us. And it'll make a very, very powerful case to the very funders that we're talking to that this needs investment. Just finally, what I find really interesting is even though politics at the moment, and including, forgive my language, is a shit show, what there is agreement about across parties, interestingly, is the importance of music and young people. They're not funding it enough, and they see it through a particular lens, which is often interestingly based on their own personal experiences in music. They see it through a particular lens, but they are really up for it. But what they want to hear from us, organisations, is this model that looks different, that puts accessibility and equity right at the heart. That could be a real game changer, and Youth Music Wise will keep in a very determined way, keep pushing that message. We're 25 years old next year, so there's another opportunity to be able to keep putting these messages across. I'm really chuffed that the idea of equity, diversity, inclusion is much more in the national plan this time. Really pleased about that, but still much, much more to do to implement that and manifest that in what that looks like. And that's in our hands. It's not really in the DFE's hands. They've given us an opportunity. It's an anxious time. Hubs are bidding, writing our applications, but there is some finance available, and yes, it's not enough. So I think lastly, I'd just say, what I'm trying to put across here is this element of change making, and finally get to a point where we're seeing young people's lives in music at the heart of what we say and what we promote and what we put on. You might have to take a bit of a leap, we probably all do, where you relinquish a bit of control, because music education is very, very good at asserting. It's very good at asserting, this is what it looks like. This person says that, this person says that. Music education, to be honest, can sometimes be a real turn-off, because there's a whole sense of argument in language that young people don't understand, and what are they doing? They're finding their own way. That's just fundamentally wrong, you know? That's unjust. It's unfair. But if we can seize that moment to look at what young people are saying, their lives in music, and how that reflects what we do, I really believe that could be a game changer. So thank you for listening. I hope that sets the tone a little bit.